this interview last night. This is when I knew it was big, all right? So Mika's visiting one of her daughters. So I'm just like, it's just a normal Sunday night. I'm on Clubhouse listening to a lecture on like macroeconomics in the modern man or something like that. And Mika's calling me going, are you watching this interview? And I said, but you can't stand anything to do with the royals. I had to force you to even watch The Crown. And now she was watching the whole thing. Apparently everybody else was. This had to be the most shocking interview since Princess Diana, what was it, back in 97, 96, 97, had her bombshell interview. What was your big takeaway from it?
Yeah. Yes, my husband was unhappy about the Man City loss. Yes, we were all completely gripped, and we are not big royal watchers in my household. I mean, I, a bit like Mika, kind of avoid royal stories. I don't really report on them that much. I could not take my eyes away. And judging by my Twitter feed, it wasn't just the East Coast of the United States that was all glued as well. They were watching in London, even though it was 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, they were all glued, staying up, the journalists in London watching this too. It was one bombshell after another. And the palace is dealing now with what is effectively a PR nightmare on their hands. And the most critical comment that was made, I think, the one that is really going to raise questions about the palace and its ethos, was when Meghan talked about how when she was pregnant with baby Archie, there were conversations in the palace, she said, about what colour the baby would be when it was born. Take a listen.
In those months when I was pregnant, all around this same time, so we have in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title, and also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What? Meghan shared with us that there was a conversation with you about Archie's skin tone. Mm-hmm. What was that conversation?
That conversation I'm never going to share. But at the time it was awkward. I was a bit shocked.
Can you tell us what the question was?
No, I'm not comfortable sharing that.
Okay.
But that was right at the beginning, right?
Like, what will the baby look like?
Yeah, what will the kids look like?
Sir Caddy, I didn't watch the entire interview. I'm ashamed to say to my Twitter friends. But did she suggest whether it was a member of the family, whether it was just a functionary inside Buckingham Palace, any idea who asked that question that everybody now, well, and let me just say, any idea who she says asked that question to her? Any idea at all where that may have come from?
So neither of them would name names, and Oprah tried to push them both on this a bit. Harry there not naming names, Meghan also not naming names. At one point, Meghan says the family, it was a member of the family asking the question, and she says she only heard about this discussion through Harry. So Meghan heard it through Harry. Harry was being asked about it by somebody in the palace. And look, it is worth pointing out, we're only hearing their points of view in this interview, right? We haven't heard from the palace directly in response to this. So, you know, that we have to have that as a caveat. But they haven't specifically named names, and that's perhaps going to be one of the criticisms that's raised in the UK. You're making this, you know, incredible allegation of racism and bigotry at the top of the royal household, but you haven't said who it was, and therefore, you know, it leaves people some room for saying that they're skeptical about the question. But it was that was really the bombshell moment, I think, in the whole interview. But the other one was when Meghan was talking about what it was like to be in the royal family. And there were definitely here, Joe, for me, echoes of Diana and everything she went through when she was married to Prince Charles. And she talked about, in very blunt, very un-British language, her own mental health and how desperate she was when she was in that situation. Take a listen.
Look, I was really ashamed to say it at the time, and ashamed to have to admit it to Harry especially. because I know how much loss he's suffered. But I knew that if I didn't say it, that I would do it. And I just didn't want to be alive anymore. And that was a very clear and real and frightening, constant thought.
My biggest concern was history repeating itself. And I've said that before, on numerous occasions, very publicly. And what I was seeing was history repeating itself, but more perhaps, or definitely far more dangerous, because then you add race in and you add social media in. And when I'm talking about history repeating itself, I'm talking about my mother. When you can see something happening in the same kind of way, anybody would ask for help, ask the system of which you are part of, especially when you know there's a relationship there that they could help and share some truth or call the dogs off, whatever you want to call it. So to receive no help at all and to be told continuously, this is how it is. This is just how it is. We've all been through it.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.